this is Grace Lichtenberger, and I'm going to be doing a shot-by-shot analysis of a scene from Alfred Hitchcock's Marnie. Now, Marnie is a movie that is defined not only by its relation of the psyche to sexuality, but its relation of sexuality to ownership and property.
Attract you and court you, and by God, I'm going to keep you.
In Marnie, Hitchcock simultaneously condemns young female sexuality while demonstrating, perhaps unconsciously, that vibrant female sexuality is what dictates ownership and agency in a woman's life. Hitchcock also uses editing to demonstrate Marnie's inherent isolation, perhaps because of her powerful sexuality. In order to convey these complex themes, Hitchcock uses the film technique at which he is best, the film sequence. Today, I'll be analyzing an important sequence in the film, where Marnie robs the company safe. Now, the first shot of the scene is one of the longer takes in the sequence, following Marnie from behind and never showing her face. While the women of the office rush out of the building, Marnie walks slowly, left behind with only a few men who remain in the background, unfocused. The shot gets closer to her shoulders and remains at that distance as she walks into the bathroom. Marnie is also first pictured at the left of the frame and gradually moves toward the center of it. The long take gives a sense of something brewing under the surface, especially because we cannot see Marnie's face throughout the entire take, and because the shot gets closer and closer. The increasing proximity of the camera, coupled with the placement of Marnie in the center of the shot, speaks to her isolation. Moreover, the presence of only men in the background for the second half of the shot, with Marnie being the only woman, demonstrates the power that Marnie has. It's the 1960s, and she's the only one left in the office with the guys. The fact they're in the background, unfocused, could also point to Marnie's purposeful ignorance of men, that they are unimportant and unfocused in her eyes. In the next shot, Marnie walks between the stalls and the women at the mirror, walking closer and closer to the camera until she finally ducks into a stall, always staying at the center of the shot. While the match-on action cuts show that this shot is primarily transitional, it also has important thematic connotations. Marnie is isolated in the center of the shot, with the women on her left and the bathroom on her right. The wall of women makes Marnie look isolated from traditional womanhood, as all the women in the bathroom are gabbing and putting on makeup in the mirror, doing traditionally feminine things with their backs turned to Marnie. The next shot, one of the longest takes in the whole sequence, is truly remarkable. Marnie walks into the bathroom stall and waits until everyone has left the office. She sits half-shrouded in darkness, and her face is relegated to the bottom right-hand corner, shot at a medium close-up distance. This shot portrays Marnie as a predator, her eyes darting as she lies in wait for her squawking co-workers. She waits, wrapped in darkness, as she listens to the people outside. The length of the take also allows for the suspense to build to a breaking point, especially as silence begins to overtake the bathroom. While placing her at the bottom right of the frame emphasizes her psychological isolation, it also makes her look like a predator, waiting just out of sight for its prey. The next shot is Marnie leaving the bathroom with a match-on action cut to her walking out of the stall and back into the hallway. The camera stays in place as she leaves the stall with her back always turned, the distance between her and the camera always growing. She moves from the right to the left, where the women were, and back to the right to exit the bathroom. It's very similar to its counterpart before she entered the stall, except in reverse. However, her back is once again turned away from the camera as it was in the first shot. Following her from the back gives a sense of dominance to Marnie in a way that coincides with the first shot of her in the bathroom stall. We are watching her take action and take what she wants, as if we're watching from her predator perspective. Once again, like the first shot, it also gives a sense of something stirring in Marnie that the audience cannot see. The next few shots, with a match-on action to an eyeline match and back, show Marnie surveying the office, again like a predator, and walking closer into the shot. This part shows Marnie as almost aggressive, confidently surveying the area and taking up more of the shot. The shot of the office also serves as an establishing shot, giving the audience the lay of the land in terms of the next part of the scene. Marnie finally begins to move through the office with the camera tracking her movements, down to her hand where she pulls out the key to the safe combination drawer, all the way to her desk where she pulls out a new, nondescript brown leather handbag. It then follows her to Susan's desk, where she opens the safe combination drawer. The distance varies a lot in this take, going from a medium shot to a medium close-up and back to a medium shot for the remainder of the take. Having seen Rutland's right-hand man open that drawer several times before opening the safe, Hitchcock thus tells the audience that Marnie is going to steal from the safe. The second handbag confirms that, as we saw Marnie switch handbags at the beginning when we saw her first theft of the movie. The shot following Marnie's hand into her handbag and following Marnie around the office demonstrates that Marnie is plotting a scheme by following her as she actually carries it out, and by focusing on the, forgive the pun, key objects. The eyeline match to the safe combination furthers this realization that Marnie is going to steal again. The next shot varies in distance several times. Marnie finishes reading the combination, scans the area, goes into the office of the safe, and turns the combination lock. The shot goes from a close-up to a medium shot to a long shot as Marnie moves, almost as if the perspective is coming from an invisible onlooker right outside the office door. The shot transitions to the next one, an extreme close-up of Marnie turning the combination lock, with a variation on an eyeline match cut. This shot, coupled with the close-up of the hand, demonstrates Marnie's isolation from the world. The fact that the shot is from an onlooker and not from Marnie herself, and because Marnie is in the center of the shot, represents the judging eye of the world that isolates Marnie. The world is in her space and in her mind, taking her close-up and watching her decide whether she wants to leave the office door open or closed. Yet, we are also watching Marnie take what she wants, but the world and the camera are still judging her and observing her from afar. The next shot, a prolonged extreme long shot introduced by a match on action, takes the whole scene to the next level. The shot is initially just Marnie from afar, stuffing the cash from the safe into her bag. Gradually, though, an old female janitor appears on the left part of the screen, coming up the hallway, mopping, and Marnie is completely unaware. Marnie's lack of awareness, coupled with the audience knowing that Marnie could potentially be discovered, starts to build tension, and the lengthy take, sandwiched by match on action cuts, builds even more suspense. The near split screen juxtaposes the old female janitor, the epitome of feminine decrepitude, with the vibrant and lustrous Marnie, one fulfilling gender norms and the other breaking the law, or not fulfilling gender norms. Hitchcock thus introduces the classic double standard of female sexuality. A woman that takes ownership of herself and others is dangerous, while a decrepit one that follows the standards set for her is not dangerous, but not sexually viable either. This is affirmed by the janitor's line at the end of the sequence.
I want to get to bed, that's the big rush.
The next few shots, linked by eyeline matches, are medium close-ups and medium shots of Marnie noticing the janitor and then planning her escape route. The shot of the janitor is at a slightly high angle, while the shots of Marnie are level. The high angle establishes the power dynamic between the two, with Marnie looking at the old janitor from above, while Marnie is a lone predator centered in the shot, observing her environment and adapting to it. The high angle also establishes Marnie's perceived sexual power in relation to the old janitor, who is clothed in pastels, and therefore lighter and more feminine, while Marnie is in darker colors and therefore more dangerous. The eyeline matches also clue us into what Marnie is thinking, that she has to evade the janitor's notice and get to the stairwell. The following shot is medium long and shows Marnie assessing the situation and acting. It follows Marnie's hands taking off her pumps and Marnie locking her eyes on the janitor. This shot establishes that Marnie intends to escape through the door, and lets us into Marnie's mind without Marnie actually having to speak. The next few shots track Marnie's movement, showing her tiptoeing as well as watching the janitor. They also show Marnie's left shoe slowly falling out of her coat pocket. The camera gets closer to the shoe with each successive shot, which are interspersed with quick match-on-action cuts back to Marnie watching the janitor as she moves. Marnie remains in the center of the frame, and once again, her face is never shown. The quick cuts between the shoes and Marnie watching the janitor build the primary tension of the scene and once again play with Marnie's lack of awareness of her situation. The audience and Marnie are powerless to keep the shoes from falling, which adds to the scene's tension. Furthermore, never showing Marnie's face and tracking her in a two-shot with the janitor establishes Marnie as both predator and prey, trying to evade notice of the janitor whilst taking advantage of her at the same time. The next shot is a low-angle shot from the drop shoe's vantage point, with the shoe taking up the majority of the shot with the unfazed janitor in the background. The shoe taking up the majority of the frame shows the weight it has in the situation. It could blow Marnie's cover. The last few shots are of Marnie in close-up, looking at the shoe, then at the oblivious janitor, which is shown with an eyeline match. Marnie finally picks up her shoe and walks down the stairs and out of Rutland's. The camera stays in the same place, so Marnie originally has a big presence in the shot and then gets smaller as she walks away. She also shares the screen with a guy who doesn't notice. She's tiptoeing down the staircase. The eyeline match establishes that the janitor did not notice the shoe falling, and the split screen with the other male worker builds a little bit of tension before the scene ends, although eventually Marnie does escape his notice. Ultimately, the split screen with the female janitor and the janitor's last line are what define the whole sequence, in addition to the fact that the scene is preceded by Marnie kissing Mark Rutland. Marnie is taking ownership of her life as a woman, which isolates her, but also gives her more power. Her vibrancy and attractiveness give her power over Rutland, and her stealing the company's cash while the old janitor mops up the place and does what she's asked juxtaposes the two stereotypes of female sexuality. The young, sexually dominant woman takes what she wants and is therefore dangerous, while the old, decrepit woman is viewed with pity and even sarcasm. Well, that's it for my video essay, guys. So sexuality in this movie is super weird, and this is clearly not a normal relationship. Anyway, enjoy this last clip of Marnie and Rutland right before he does you-know-what to her.